evening, everyone. Good evening to all those listening to the sound of my voice and those of you who are viewing me on social media. I wish you a pleasant good evening. Good evening to our brothers and sisters here in Nevis, as well as our brothers and sisters across the Norros in our sister island, St. Kitts. It's a wonderful Monday evening here in Queen City, Nevis, and I am happy to be with you this evening to bring you another edition of the legendary show. I am your host, Cleone Stapleton Simmonds, independent member on the opposition bench in the Nevis Island Assembly. As always, it's a pleasure for me to join you. I wish to take this opportunity to say a pleasant good evening to the good folks here in my beloved constituency of Nevis 5 St. Thomas's Parish, as well as to our friends and families in the diaspora. In particular, I wish to make special mention of my uncle Dalma there in St. Thomas, USVI. I'm sure he is listening, as well as my uncle Vaden there in North Carolina, my aunt Janice Moore in England, as well as my wonderful brother Mr. Masquerade Man Duggan Stapleton there in New York City. I also wish to take this opportunity to extend special greetings and say a wonderful good evening to my adopted mother, Miss Patricia Jeffers, there in Florida. So I trust and hope that everyone is enjoying their evening. Happy to be with you. But before we get into the meat of our show this evening, I just want to take care of a few housekeeping matters as per normal. So, starting off the list, I wish to extend congratulations to all those who are celebrating a birthday or an anniversary today, or perhaps during the rest of the week. I wish to extend happy birthday greetings to Miss Rhonda Thompson there in Brownhill. I'm told that she's celebrating today, and by all accounts on social media, I can see that she's having a wonderful time and enjoying her birthday. I also wish to say happy belated birthday to Miss Ruthlyn Hill there in Cotton Ground. She celebrated her birthday, I believe it was yesterday, and by all accounts I saw that she had a wonderful time. As well as happy belated birthday to Mr. Andrew Nisbet. We all know him as King Hollywood, and he too celebrated his birthday, I believe it was yesterday. And so I hope that everyone who celebrated that they had a wonderful time. I wish to also extend a happy anniversary to Mr. Lawford and Miss Hyacinth Forbes, lovely people there in Hamilton. I'm told that they are celebrating their 31st wedding anniversary today, and so we extend congratulations to them on behalf of the legendary team and the entire staff of One Radio. We trust and hope that they are having a wonderful time, they are enjoying the anniversary, and we wish them many, many more years of togetherness. On that same token, I also wish to extend congratulations to a few persons who have done extremely well academically and they have graduated. First, topping the list is Miss Curtis Clark, and she recently graduated with a PhD. Dr. Curtis Clark, and she recently graduated with a PhD in psychology, and so we extend congratulations to her on behalf of the entire island of Nevis. I'm told that she did extremely well because she was able to secure a 4.0 GPA in all of her courses, and so she's a brilliant, lovely young person, and we wish her all the best in her future endeavors. I also take this opportunity to extend congratulations on behalf of myself, my family, and the entire island of Nevis to Doctors Ajari Brown, as well as Adrian Daniel. Is it Adrian? Just gonna check my notes here. Oh, sorry, it's Romario Daniel, and I know Romario when he was perhaps much younger. He is the son of Scott. Well, I know him as Scott Daniel and Roxanne Daniel there in Brown Hill, as well as Ajari, who happens to be the son of my very, very good friend, Mr. Astro Oscar Brown. And so we want to extend congratulations to them on achieving significant achievement. They both graduated from the University of the West Indies, and they are now qualified medical doctors. And so we're quite happy and very proud here in Nevis to celebrate their accomplishments, and we do wish them all of the best in their medical career. I also wish to extend congratulations. I don't quite remember this young lady's name, but I know she is the daughter of Miss Colette Hanley there in St. Thomas's Parish, the wife of Mr. Joseph Parry. And so we want to extend congratulations to her daughter, who also recently graduated from the University of the West Indies, and I'm told that she did extremely well. So we are happy when our young people, they go out and they pursue their studies and they do well, and you know, they go on to their journey of life. And so we wish them every success in their endeavors. Now, on a bit of a sad note, we also wish to extend sincerest condolences to those families who may be mourning the loss of a loved one. This evening, our thoughts and prayers goes out to the family of the late Rosalind Nisbet of Cotton Ground. She was laid to rest last week, Tuesday, 30th of October 2023, and so our thoughts and prayers are with the entire family circle there in Cotton Ground, and with Mr. Ronald Harris there in St. Croix. We trust and hope that you may find comfort in the bosom of God during this difficult time. In the same breath, we also extend sincerest condolences to the family of Miss Rose Sargent there in Jessops, and to the entire family circle, to my good friend Connie Sargent and his siblings and the whole family and the whole community of Jessops. We extend sincerest sympathy to you, and we trust and hope as well that God will be with you during this difficult time. So yes, we have a very special show lined up for you. Unfortunately, this evening I was supposed to have a special guest. However, it was confirmed perhaps last minute that they were unable to make it, and so you just have me. The last time I was here with you, I shared with you some of my experiences thus far as a parliamentarian, as a politician, and also, you know, what a journey it has been. This evening I want to speak briefly about several issues that have been affecting us as a people. Most of you would perhaps recall that last week Tuesday, the evening of last week Tuesday, October 31st, there was a fire at the Four Seasons Resort, and that fire subsequently destroyed the gym as well as the pro shop area. And I think all of us were quite saddened, shocked and saddened to say the very least, to hear the news about the fire at the Four Seasons Resort. By all accounts, and particularly so during the report given during the National Assembly sitting today, we were advised that the Four Seasons, they are now taking steps, and they have really relocated the gym, and it's business as usual there at Four Seasons. The hotel is sold out and full to capacity, and so we are grateful for that news. We are grateful that things, you know, it could have been worse, but we're grateful that the main hotel was not damaged, and we are happy to report that business continue there at the Four Seasons, because I'm sure most of you know the significant role that the Four Seasons Resort play to the economy and the sustainability of the island of Nevis. And so we really would not want to wish any harm or want to see the hotel destroyed, because that surely could have a significant adverse impact on the economy here on Nevis, and so we are grateful. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all those persons who really turned up and gave their support or lend a helping hand in whatever way they can to ensure that the fire was put out, and we were very grateful to that. I know to the fire personnel, they did their best with whatever resources that they had to control the fire and to ensure that there was not any further damage, especially to the main hotel. Also to all of the staff who went out of their way to lend support, members of the general public, of the community. I know there were some persons from the private sector who assisted in whatever way they can, because I think all of us as Nevians and Kittians as well, we understood the significance and the importance of ensuring that we were able to maintain and control those flames in order to prevent further loss and damage. So kudos to everyone who helped, and in whatever way possible. It was really touching to see that spirit of resilience from the people and togetherness, and so see people really coming out and volunteering their time and working, you know, together to ensure that they did whatever they can to really help the Four Seasons during the state of despair. One of my friends told me a story about my auntie Esther there in Jessops, and I know she wouldn't mind me calling her name or relating to the story, but I must tell this story so that people can understand how Nevians are, especially in the time of crisis. So I'm told that Auntie Esther Matthew, she was at home, I believe, when the fire started, and she too quickly, like many other persons, went over to Four Seasons and volunteered her time, and she went out there and she started to remove golf carts and to park them in certain areas so that they would not be destroyed by the fire. And you know, we just wanted to say kudos to people like that and really applaud them for their efforts, because you know, she could have easily said, well, I'm not working, I can stay home today, this fire really has nothing to do with me. But that's not the spirit of us as a Nevian people. Normally we love to help, especially when something can affect our bread and butter. And so I'm very extremely proud of people like Auntie Esther and all others who, even though you know they were not part of the fire personnel, but being staff at Four Seasons, and even those persons who do not work at the Four Seasons, they were able to go out and assist and really help. So that is the type of spirit that we want to promote here in Nevis, and we definitely applaud all of those persons who went out and who assisted. So yeah, I wish success to the management team of Four Seasons. I'm told that there is a new general manager, and so we wish them all the best in their rebuilding process. I know that they have already started, and we just here as a community, as a country, to give whatever support we can to this esteemed resort. I am a bit under the weather this evening, so if my voice is a bit hoarse, I sincerely apologize. I'm just battling the flu, and so I hope that you know it's not an inconvenience to anyone. I'm really trying my best, because I really wanted to be here at Fun Radio with you this evening for another edition of the legendary show. Now, just by way of update, this morning we had a sitting of the House of Assembly here in Nevis, and it really was for a proposed amendment to the Integrity in Public Life Bill. As you know, the Integrity in Public Life legislation was passed, I think it was in 2017, 2018. Since that time, the bill has had several amendments. And so the main amendment really for this particular piece of legislation, which had its first reading in the House of Assembly this morning, was really to to put the commission. The integrity in public life is governed by a board of commissioners consisting of 3 persons, a chairman as well as 2 other commissioners. And so since the last appointment, one of the office for the commissioners became vacant, and so normally how that is done is the chairman of the commission is appointed by the Deputy Governor General of Nevis, as well as the Premier of Nevis would recommend or nominate one other commissioner, and then the leader of the opposition would also nominate or recommend the other commissioner. As we know, we are in a state presently in Nevis where there is no leader of the opposition because the person vying to be leader failed to command the support of the other elected representative, and so therefore there is no leader of the opposition. And because of that, or as a resultant of that particular issue, there is no leader of the opposition, and so therefore no one can, in accordance with the existing legislation, nominate or recommend for a commissioner on behalf of the leader of the opposition. And so therefore it has caused a hiccup in the sense that the Integrity in Public Life Commission has not been able to be convened, and so the purpose of the amendment was really to rectify that particular issue. And so the proposed amendment is really for the Premier of Nevis to nominate or recommend a commissioner in situations or circumstances as we have where there is no leader of the opposition, after consultation with the members as well as parties within the opposition within the House of Assembly. The amendment within itself, I think the way that it was worded, it poses some difficulty in the sense of having transparency and independence. In my respectful view, I do not quite support the proposed amendment. I wish to state to the general public that this is really a first reading, and so therefore at this stage the amendment is now up for public debate and public consultation, and really to come up with the best solution in order to deal with that particular issue. At the proposed amendment, the difficulty that I have is that the Premier of Nevis, he already nominates a member of the commission, and so to seek to nominate 2 members of the commission, I believe that perhaps a better course of action can be taken. There have been several recommendations. Some persons are of the view that perhaps the Deputy Governor General, in circumstances where there is no clear leader of the opposition, and from time to time that happens. Sometimes it happens based on the results of the election. I know that when I contested the by-election back in 2020, there was no leader of the opposition simply because my former party, the Nevis Reformation Party, at that time only had 1 seat. And so therefore, based on our constitution, the constitution clearly states that in order for there to be a leader of the opposition, that person must command the majority, the support of at least one other person, elected member on the opposition bench. And so there are instances where it really doesn't happen, and so the question really is, how do you address that from a legislative standpoint? How do you put the framework in place to remedy that situation where the appointment must go on? You must have the Integrity in Public Life Commission, you must have it being established and being constituted and being able to function effectively, but where there is a disqualification, so to speak, within the law, how do you remedy that? And so that really is the purpose of the spirit of the amendment, to deal with those type of situations. So it's on up for public debate and consultation, and I wish to hear from the general public on this particular matter or issue. The phone lines are open. You can call in, just let us know your thoughts, what do you think about the amendment, or if you have any suggestions or recommendations. I definitely would love to hear from you as it relates to this particular issue. Now, moving right along, I just wish to touch on also a few issues, going back now to the Four Seasons matter, and I do not wish to dwell on it because, like I said, at the end of the day, we all understand the importance of Four Seasons. But I think upon reflection, and perhaps I can speak for the majority of Nigerians, that one of the things when I heard the news about Four Seasons, it caused me to pause and to reflect on the state of affairs here in Nevis. And I can understand the fear of persons, the fear of the workers, as well as other stakeholders. The what if Four Seasons was destroyed, what impact would that have on the economy of Nevis? And we all know that Four Seasons is the major employer here in Nevis, and so therefore we can only imagine the catastrophic effect that it would have on the economy, on people, the severity of loss of jobs and things like that. So it caused us as a people to really reflect and to look at our state of affairs and our position as an island. It tells us that some 40 years later after independence, we definitely need a major economic or labor provider. We need to really find that outlet or that avenue that is going to provide significant employment to our workforce, to supplement tourism and also to supplement the Four Seasons resort. And I believe that I can understand and appreciate the fear and anxiety that particular incident, that it really proved on the people of Nevis, and I think many of us can sympathize with that. So it is perhaps God's way of telling us that as a people we definitely need to look at our economy in perhaps a more serious way, and we definitely need to do something, whether it is to find the means of attracting the resources and the necessary investments in order to have a major hotel that can provide employment to our populace, to the workforce, major employment. Or we perhaps need to look at other alternatives. For example, we perhaps need a factory or something, but that really, it triggered an indicator within us, because there was the stimulation of fear, because we all understand our situation and how any type of tragedy could be something from natural disaster or just something inherently something as destructive as a fire, the impact that can have on our economy. So I think from this it should really be an eye-opener, and it should really be a learning lesson for all of us, the government, the opposition, as well as all stakeholders, that definitely Nevis is in a very vulnerable state, and we need to work together in order to bring some sort of alternative form of economic activity to Nevis. Okay, we must be able to diversify economy. We need another major labor force or workforce provider, and so that is important. I think we leading up to December is normally the time for our budget debates, and this is something that, against the backdrop as to what happened last week Tuesday, we must bear that in mind, that our position here in Nevis is very vulnerable, and so therefore we must do whatever we can to ensure that when something like a fire or a natural disaster threatens us, that we do not find ourselves in a state of panic. Okay, we can compare and perhaps contrast our position here in Nevis with our sister island St. Kitts. As you all know, St. Kitts have several hotels. They have the Marriotts, they have the Park Hyatt, and other different smaller, medium-sized hotels. And so if, for example, there was a major fire at Marriott's, you know, we yes, it would still be adverse, and there will still be anxiety, and it will still be destructive, but not to the extent when we compare that to Four Seasons in Nevis, because Four Seasons is perhaps our one and only source of major source of employment. And so St. Kitts have several hotels and economic activities and drivers that they perhaps can fall back on. And so it tells us here in Nevis that we definitely need to get to that state in our little island here in Nevis, and that really must be the focal point, that must be the focus as we approach the year of 2024. Okay, in addition to that, coming out of that experience, I believe that Four Seasons, being a major hotel, can use that experience in order to make a shift in their contingency plan. I do believe that a major hotel like that really should have their own fire unit. Okay, most major hotels throughout the world do have a fire response unit within the hotel facility, even a mini fire truck or something that can assist them immediately in the event if there is a fire. And so that is something that the hotel and the management of the hotel, the board of directors, whatever have you, the owners can perhaps look at, the response from the government, and it is something that I think that they should be able to put in place, to have their own resource, their own fire brigade or unit, in order to be able to even have that immediate response, to be able to respond very quickly to out the flames, or to deal with any situation that they may have on the hotel premises as it relates to fire. So it's just food for thought. It's just something putting out there, a suggestion, a recommendation that persons can really look at, because I think it is important. And I am aware that other major hotels throughout the Caribbean region, as well as throughout the world, they actually have those facilities in place. All right, we're just going to take a short break because I need to perhaps rejuvenate for a bit, and so we're just going to take a very short break, just a 1 minute break while I try to wet my throat a bit, and then we are going to come back with you. Yes, so welcome back to the legendary show. If you missed the first part of the show, I am your host, Cleone Stapleton Simmonds, and I'm happy to be here with you this evening. I did mention at the top of the show that I'm not feeling 100%, but I'm still in good spirits, and I'm happy to be here with you. I just want to, before we go into the second half hour of the show, I just want to let the general public know that we are anticipating budget debates very shortly, and so those of you in my constituency of Nevis 5 St. Thomas's Parish, I will be doing some walkthrough throughout the different villages in St. Thomas's, just trying to hear from the people, getting some ideas as to things that needs to be done within the constituency. So you can expect me within the next two weeks to pay you a visit, and so we are looking at how we can improve St. Thomas's. I know that there are a number of issues plaguing us. I have been meeting with people constantly throughout the tenure of my political appointment, and I am aware of some of the issues. For example, I am aware and have been agitating and advocating for the various playfields within the constituency. For example, the cotton ground playfield, for there to be a bathroom facility, as well as the Jessup playfield, as well as adequate lighting. And so these are things that are really affecting the persons within St. Thomas's. I know that there are a number of drainage issues, particularly so, especially in the vicinity of Jessup's. They are just opposite the gas station, the Farrell gas station, and within that drain within the vicinity of the residence of Miss Sheila Paris, again that particular drain going down to the Jessup's Bay Road, that is really a hazard, and it's a nuisance to the public, and especially to the residents and the persons who have their small businesses within that area. And that is something that I think needs to be rectified. I have raised the issue several times, both privately during my meetings with the Honorable Premier, as well as publicly in the National Assembly, in the House of Assembly. And so it is something that definitely needs to be rectified, and we are hoping that this year during the budget debates that there will be some funds allocated specifically to deal with those issues that continue to confront the people of St. Thomas's within the budget. For the past 3 years, I have not really heard anything within the budget directed towards any project within St. Thomas's. We are indeed grateful that the government saw it fit, after much agitation, to really pave what is coined as the Banjo Road, and that is a road within the Cahoons area there in Cotton Ground, and so we are grateful for that. But there are other areas, for example, that area within the Clifton Estate area, there are roads that are significantly needed in that particular area, as well as utilities such as electricity, lighting. That area during the evening is very, very dark, and so there is need for some additional poles to put some lighting within that particular area. And so there are a number of issues, number of projects that I personally would like to see being done in the St. Thomas's parish area. If I was in government, I definitely would have ensured that the Westbury, the good folks there in Westbury, I believe that they need a community outlet in the form of a community center, just a place where people can meet and have functions, and to encourage the spirit of good community ethics and work within the Westbury area. And so we definitely need that. We see that there's a need. Perhaps one of the considerations or the recommendations really would be to have a community center to serve both the communities of Fountain and Westbury. And And so, these are things that really affecting people and things that people really want to see. They want to be able to enjoy those type of resources. Also, I am aware and very mindful and passionate about that drainage issue in Lower Cotton Ground. Well, not necessarily Lower Cotton Ground. It is really affecting the entire village of Cotton Ground from all the way up to the top. There is some drainage issues as it relates to the gut area there in Cotton Ground, and it's affecting everyone that we call the ling there in Cotton Ground, everyone in that back community from the Cotton Ground main village road. And so that issue is a major project. It is definitely something that ought to be rectified. For many years we have heard excuses. People talk about how great of a project it is, and no one seemed to really want to address the issue. But I definitely think that it is one that has to be addressed, because I think the people there who are affected by the heavy rains and the drainage and the mudslides and everything that really, the muck that really comes down in the area. Some people really, sometimes when it rains heavily during hurricanes, they really cannot have, access. They can't even come outside, and so definitely that really ought to be rectified. And so I'm just encouraging the government to look at that particular issue. I'm very passionate about it. Also, many of you would recall that in the Cotton Ground area there was an issue with the fencing, that is the retainer wall of the Cotton Ground play field. The government did some remedial works and they did fix part of the wall. However, it is still not fully completed, because looking at it just this week, there are indeed some draining issues that can really significantly affect that wall. Even the repairs that they did to the existing wall. And so when you start projects, you just really have to complete them and ensure that the people are satisfied within the community, and ensure that the project is done to a very high standard in order to alleviate some of the issues. I believe that there is need for a retaining or retention wall on the eastern side of the Cotton Ground play field. I mean, those are things that can be discussed. So I will be out in the community. I want to hear from you when I come. I want to know what issues are affecting you and how we can, as a community, put a budget together to really take to the government. I am in opposition as an independent member, so I cannot make much promises. What I can do is really just advocate on behalf of the people who I represent and agitate for their cause. And so that is something that I intend to do. So I want to hear from you when I come out. I want to have discussions with you one-on-one. Let me know what issues you are having. It could be from a community standpoint as well as personally, so that I can advocate on your behalf and take those issues to the powers that be, the people who can actually do something about to remedy your particular situation. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you during the course of the next 2 weeks. I'm actually looking forward and quite excited about the budget debates. I'm waiting in anticipation to hear what plans the government are going to come with for 2024. We all know the state of the economy. It can do with some significant revamping, and so I am hoping that would be done, and that the budget this year would be very, very optimistic with a positive outlook towards 2024 and beyond. One of the things that I continue to agitate for is really the reduction in taxes, and in particularly so to the stamp duty. And this is a discussion that I have had with numerous stakeholders, both persons within the Inland Revenue Department, fellow attorneys, as well as realtors. And I'm really looking forward to sitting down with other stakeholders and having a frank and open discussion, and really hearing as to what people think about that particular issue. For me, the stamp duty at present, as it relates to property and the transfer of property, stands at a whopping 10%. Now 10% is significantly high. It is, I am told from research that 10% is one of the highest within the Caribbean region. I believe it's St. Kitts and Nevis as well as St. Vincent that has their stamp duty at 10%. Other countries such as Antigua, Barbuda have theirs at 2 and 3%. Now, really, back in the day, historically, when the stamp duty was introduced as it relates to properties, it really was what it is coined as and described as a stamp duty, really just as a means of stamping the transfer document. So it was envisioned as a minimal stamp collection levy or duty just to stamp a document. That has now evolved tremendously, where the stamp duty now is seen as a major economic revenue for the government, and so having it at a whopping 10%, it means every time you transfer property for sale, particularly for sale, that you must pay that stamp duty of 10% of the value. Okay, now I want to touch on this. I want to be very, very careful. It is 10% of the value of the property, not what you are selling the property at, but 10% of the value of the property. And so that is when, whether an independent valuator or assessor or the Inland Revenue make the assessment, and they assess your property at whatever the market value is. So for example, just to bring the point home a bit clearer, let us suppose that Sarah is selling her house or land and house, small dwelling thereon, to Sam for $50,000. Okay, and that is the agreement. And they have done their purchase and sale agreement. They come now to the point where they're actually going to transfer or exchange the property. And so Sarah now is selling the property to Sam. They have their lawyers involved. Their lawyers do the transfer documents, and now it is time to pay stamp duty. How it works in Nevis is that once you submit that transfer document, if the land is held by title, you do what is called a memorandum of transfer, and to support that you have to fill out a tax form, which is called the S10 form. And now that S10 form is really to assess the value of the stamp duty or that tax that would be placed on the transfer. Now when you do that, Inland Revenue then can make an assessment, and they can say, okay, despite the agreement or the contract between Sarah and Sam to sell their property for $50,000, Inland Revenue may look at the property and say, well, actually this property is worth $100,000. Okay, and so the stamp duty now, which the vendor has to pay, that is the person who is selling the property, they can increase that particular stamp duty, because then it would be based on the assess on what is coined as market value. And then you can see the nuance there, because now the vendor, who is Sarah, she had agreed to sell her land for $50,000. Now she's told, listen, your land actually value $100,000, and so she now have to factor in that 10% that she would now have to pay the Inland Revenue or the government. Okay, and so that would be obviously $10,000. She have to factor that in. And so these are the things that sometimes, you know, affect the sale of property, the transfer, the movement within the property market, because you have to factor in that whopping 10%. Now, I am of the view, and respectfully so, that perhaps as an incentive, the government can look at reducing the stamp duty from 10% to maybe half of that, which would be 5% or even 6% across the board. And I believe that by doing so, that would definitely create some movement within the property market that would stimulate economic movement here in Nevis. I believe that it will stimulate more movement within the construction industry and all subsequent industries stemming from the movement of property. And so the issue or the challenge that we are having, and as a practicing attorney, I face this challenge every single day. Sometimes I have to have debates with the assessors and evaluators at Inland Revenue in the property division. We have differing views as it relates to the value of the property and the cost of the stamp duty and how it affects the individual persons. And it does have a significant impact on persons. For example, if it is that, let's say that a family member decides to transfer or gift a piece of land to one of their young relatives, so a grandfather gift a piece of land to his grandson, and the grandson obviously is not in a position, unable to purchase land, and in a situation like that, the stamp duty is actually 6%. Sometimes, depending on the value and how Inland Revenue assess the value, it can put the persons who the grandfather intended to have the benefit in a very adverse and challenging position. In some cases, there are actual instances where the persons face hardship in really being able to pay the taxes, even at a level of 6%. And so therefore, the property just stays there. Within the system, everything is at a halt because the person really cannot pay. And it is a challenge. It is something that we definitely, as a people, as a government, as all stakeholders, that we definitely have to look at to see how best we can have this particular area within the property market and the real estate development look at, so that we can better serve people and it can create some movement as a form of a stimulus within our economy. And that is something that I am not sure if the general public, if they are aware. I don't know how many of you have had experience in really purchasing land or even selling land. And so it to me, from where I sit, it can be sometimes a plaguing issue. I have advocated and in some cases been able to persuade Inland Revenue in some instances that sometimes the valuation is a bit too high, and if it can be reduced, just to give persons a bit of relief in that sense that is needed. So I believe that if it is that we can come up with a model that is across the board equitable in that sense, where the stamp duty is reduced. And I know many of you would say it's a federal issue, and it is indeed a federal issue, because as we know, stamp duty is a federal tax, so it is not really controlled, so to speak, by the Davis Island administration. But I do believe that we do have elected representatives at the federal level, and it just so happened that all of the elected representatives at the federal level also form part, with the exception of one person, of the executive of the NIE, that is the cabinet. And so there is perhaps no excuse why they cannot agitate for a reduction in the stamp duty on behalf of the people of Nevis. I'm not sure what the situation is in St. Kitts. I have raised this particular issue on at least 2 occasions with the Honorable Prime Minister, and it is something that he promised to have his team really look at and see if we can provide some sort of relief in that regard by reducing the stamp duty from 10% to perhaps to 6%. Of course, we have to take into consideration different variables. For example, the impact of the revenue that the government may or may not lose if the stamp duty was to be reduced. And those are things that obviously would be first and foremost in any government mind. If we were to reduce the stamp duty, what significant impact would that have on our revenue collection and on our balance sheet and things like that? So we are mindful of that, but at the same time, I do believe that any reduction, as we have seen, and the Premier of Nevis have boasted about this on several occasions, where there was a stimulus in the reduction of the alien holding land license fee from a whopping 10% to a 5%. I believe it was 5% or 6%. I stand to be corrected. And with that reduction, there was tremendous movement in the property market. I mean, so the movement was so great that the Honorable Premier even boasted about it, I believe, sometime in one of his press conferences, where the government really benefited significantly from that particular movement and that particular stimulus, because of that reduction, you saw a lot more persons foreigners purchasing property here in Nevis. So my argument and what I wish to put forward is simply that if by doing that particular initiative, it stimulated the economy so significantly and the property market that all stakeholders benefited, then why not give something to the local landowners, in this case the vendors? Can we give them that same stimulus where we have a reduction in the stamp duty? And definitely, if the resultant with the experiment with the alien holding land license, if that really triggered movement in the property market, then I see no reason not to believe that the same effect, it would not have the same effect on the vendors and on the locals as we transfer property. And so we just want people to be aware of these particular issues as we look forward to 2024 and as we come up to tailoring a budget that is going to be mutually economically beneficial for all persons within Nevis. And so those are some of the things that that I would be agitating for over the next coming weeks leading up to the budget. And we do hope that in 2024 we can see some sort of tax relief. I know from the sitting of the House this morning, I see the Honorable Minister for Water, he was really agitating for increase in water fees. Again, I do believe that, you know, we cannot continue with this Napoleon effect or this Napoleon style of governance where we're taxing people to death. I believe that there has to be some sort of stimulus, there has to be some sort of tax reduction and tax alleviation, particularly maybe so if not stamp duty, even to the reduction of VAT. I mean, these are promises that elected officials, elected representative made during the campaign, and we are yet to see these. But I believe that if we have some sort of tax reduction within the budget for 2024, that it would definitely significantly impact the lives of our people. Our people really are struggling. A lot of people are struggling. A lot of families, you know, some persons have to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs. Some people can't even find a job, and so it is really, really difficult out there in the economy. Even though I can see efforts where the private sector as well as even the government to a certain extent, they are making strides to really diversify and to stimulate the economy. I'm just simply saying that we need to do it faster and we need to do it at a greater rate in order for the layman to feel that effect. And so these are things that we want to discuss, we want to think about. So I'm just imploring you as a people to look at these issues and see how best we can as stakeholders come up with a model that would definitely bring a more optimistic view and an optimistic outlook to the island of Nevis in the future. I think people, all of us, have the one sheer common dream where we just want to be able to provide for our families and live comfortably. Those of you who have invested in small businesses, you want to ensure that you can see a return on your investment, but you would only see a return in your investment if you are operating in an environment that is economically feasible and where the environment is created to generate new revenue rather than just revenue from means of taxation. So I've been with you now for an hour. We have discussed several issues. It was really a pleasure for me to be here with you, and I want to thank all those who were able to tune in to the legendary show this week. As I said, and let me just repeat, I will be out in the constituency within the next 2 weeks, and the focus really would be to hear from people as we go into the budget debates. I anticipate the budget will be in early December, and so I just want to hear from you some of the issues that are plaguing you, whether personally as a community, and so what you think the government can do to improve your lives and to make your life a bit more comfortable here on the island of Nevis. I really want to hear from you, and so on that note, I wish to say to everyone, I wish you all a pleasant good evening. I just want to encourage those persons out there in our community in the island of Nevis to continue to be good. We have some good people here on the island of Nevis, as demonstrated by the incident there at Four Seasons. I started the show by congratulating some young people who are doing extremely well academically and professionally, and so I just want to encourage this spirit, because oftentimes narrative is so negative. Okay, we have a lot of people out there spinning and trying to bring down people and to be negative, but I just want to encourage all of you, all the good persons. If you know you're a good person, you wake up every day, you go to work, you try your best to work hard to pay your bills, you're not out there trying to discredit anybody or to manipulate anybody, I want to encourage you to continue to be a good person and to be a good citizen in this country, because from good citizens we definitely would have good governance. And so that is my time. I am Cleone Stapleton Simmonds, and it was a pleasure being with you here on the legendary show for the month of November. Remember to tune in every first Monday of the month to the legendary show, the show that promotes the vision of ordinary legends. And so it's a pleasure for me to be here with you. I'll see you in December. That is the first Monday in December, as we all are looking forward to the festive season and the Christmas season. So be good and continue to be blessed. Thank you so much.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or